What is going on, all? Welcome to this week's episode of Conquer the Day. I am your host, Brian Pickowicz.
And I'm your co-host, Lindsey Rago.
And this week we are talking about how to leverage the 1% rule to be more consistent and make better progress.
Today we want to really help you build some momentum in your journey. We want to help you get more consistent, and we know that that is the top tier priority when you are coming out of summer and going into the fall is, okay, time to get back in routine, time to find my motivation again, time to get some consistency back.
I posted yesterday and said it's better to be consistent than, or it's more important to have a consistent workout than have an intense workout. And I saw someone share that post, and I scrolled through the comments on their page, and someone said, oh, well, too many people get credit for just showing up. They think showing up is working out, and it's not. And I started kind of going off and saying some demeaning comments about people who think that showing up is credit. And I kind of commented back to them, and I said, well, it's actually based off of basic psychology and physiology, meaning that the foundation for progress is meeting yourself where you're at. And how unrealistic it is for someone who's already in shape to expect that someone who hasn't worked out for a decade or 5 years, or maybe it hasn't even worked out at all, maybe you haven't been to the gym, how unrealistic of an expectation is it that they do what you consider intense? And I thought this is a really good starting point for this conversation, because I think that whether we're talking about comparing yourself to an athlete or comparing yourself to what you used to be able to do, we all fall into this trap at times of setting this really high bar for what we think we should be able to do for ourselves today. And although it's really important that we have aspirations and we use other people as inspiration, right? If we see someone running a really fast mile, it's like, oh wow, that was so incredible. I want to start getting up and doing something. Like, we can use other people as inspiration, but we want to be able to meet ourselves where we're at so we can build consistency and get to the point where our body and our psychology are primed for us to get more out of ourselves. And the best way to do that is to lean into the 1% rule.
Right, and so starting with the 1% rule, what is the 1% rule and where does it come from?
So the 1% rule, it's very popular in the book Atomic Habits. That's where I fell upon it and we fell upon it. But James Clear talks about how valuable and important it is that we focus on making incremental progress. For example, if you get 1% better every day, by the end of the year, you'll be about 32.5% better. And it's so powerful because what that does is it shows you the compound interest of your habits. If you were 32% better this year, well, that would compound into the next year. And that would compound into the next year. One of the most powerful tools that financial planners use to show you the value of investing is they show you the compound power that happens when you start investing when you're young. So if you invested when you're 25, here's where you'll be when you're 70. Whereas if you invest in your 30s or 40s, here's where you'll be, because the power of compound interest won't be as great. And I share this because that 1% rule is so important when we're talking about taking care of our health, taking care of our body, starting from zero and starting to chip away at the progress. And that progress will compound over time.
It is a principle that you can follow, but it's also a mindset that you can develop. When you're first starting to get into working out or trying to clean up your diet or whatever it looks like in the health realm, it's really tempting to go at 100%, whatever that means to you. In the past, your 100% may have looked like working out 5 or 6 days a week and eating 3 square healthy meals. You might not have a past to compare to, and you might just be seeing somebody else on the internet and assuming they work out twice a day, they eat super well every single meal. Okay, I should meal prep. I should at least get in the gym 4 times a week. And it becomes very difficult to find something that's manageable. And if it's not manageable, you can't be consistent with it, especially at the start. So the 1% rule is a mindset that you can adopt to really build momentum and consistency when you're first starting.
And it's so important to remember, we're talking about 1% progress, getting 1% better. Doesn't mean you have to put 1% effort, right? Now, 1% progress might look like just showing up at the gym and walking on the treadmill. So when we're talking about effort, it's different than progress. Because when we use this principle to say, okay, I'm going to get focused on getting 1% better every day, then we can put ourselves into a state, right? Put ourselves into the arena. And what happens is when we put ourselves in the arena, effort usually follows. But I wanted to use this analogy because this is really how the 1% rule works. Imagine that you're flying a plane, right? So you're traveling from Dallas to Boston and you're the pilot and you know, hey, we're going to be going straight this way. And then what happens is over the course of the flight, the pilot just turns the steering wheel, I don't know what it is, the controls, right, by 1 millimeter to the left. It wouldn't seem like a big deal at first, right? The plane might go from here to here, right? Very, very incremental, very, very small. What's going to happen though is over the course of that next 1,000 to 2,000 miles, the plane's going to end up at a totally different space. It's going to end up in Montreal. It's going to end up in New York City because of that 1 millimeter change. And that's really what you're trying to do. You're trying to get the 1 millimeter change to make the long-term change. So Lindsay, why is this advantageous though? Like, what does this actually give us the ability to do?
Well, like we've talked about so far, it gives you the ability to do something that's manageable first and foremost. It allows you to give yourself grace to start and meet yourself where you're at rather than trying to jump into your version of 100% and then burn out. So if you are allowing yourself to make progress and make small wins and focus on just getting 1% better, it becomes a much more motivating experience, because if you see how far you have to go and you're assuming that if you go 100% in that you'll get there fast, and then you see that that's actually not the case, it becomes very uninspiring to keep chasing that goal. Whereas if we focus on the 1% rule and we focus on getting 1% better, but still putting in effort, then we can really start chipping away at that goal. And as we see the progress and we feel ourselves getting consistent, it's much more motivating because we feel like we're actually making progress or we're making steps forward towards a goal that's meaningful. And if we can do that, we can make adjustments as needed, right? We don't have to go all in, burn out, and then start over. We can see, okay, this feels pretty easy. Let's add a little bit more. Or we can say, okay, this still feels like a little bit too much. Let's tone it back. Again, that flight example, if they pull the wheel to the left or the control to the left, it's a lot harder to adjust or course correct. Whereas if they only made a small incremental change, it's very easy to turn it back, which is really helpful in a health and fitness journey as well.
And I think it's so important to remember that this puts you in the process rather than the end result, right? So if you're focusing on what did I do today to get better, you can answer that at any point in time. It can be 8 p.m. And you can say, wow, this day really sucked. What did I do to get better? Well, you know, I didn't do anything to get better. Okay, what can I do to get better today? I still have time, right? So it puts us in the present of the journey. It puts us in the journey. It allows us to focus on what we're doing today. It makes it less overwhelming to attack the end result.
Yeah.
It makes it less about the destination and more about how we're showing up today to get there. And when you do that, that's where it compounds. So we wanted to share this today, and we wanted to share a couple little examples. I'm curious, Linz, like how has this shown up in your life too?
Yeah, so ending with some practical application here, we can share what we've done, and we've seen this in different parts of our journey in hopes that you can see where it fits for you, because obviously you're going to have different goals than we have. But personally, when I was working on my hormone health after bodybuilding, my hormones were pretty much at zero for the most part. They were very, very low. And when I started doing research for how to rebalance my hormones or how to heal my hormone health, there was so much advice, right? There were so many different diets, so many different changes to diet, so many different changes to lifestyle habits, stress management, etc., that at first it was kind of overwhelming. I thought, well, I don't want to stop training. I don't want to start sleeping 3 hours more. This is just like too aggressive of an approach. So all I did was focus on getting 1% better in my diet, in my stress management habits, in my sleep habits. And that showed up as adding 1 to 2 foods into my diet that were great for hormone health per week or per month. Adding in 30 extra minutes of sleep to make sure I was getting full sleep cycles. and then adding one stress relieving habit or activity per week. So I started with these small changes, and over the course of a year to 2 years, which sometimes it can take 10 to restore your hormone health. So over the next 1 to 2 years, I ended up getting my body healthy again, just with incremental changes that built on each other as I went.
For me, it's shown up in many different ways. It's shown up in business. It's shown up in paying down debt when we first started our business, because we had I had a previous venture that was something I was investing in. It didn't turn out well, so I had to kind of recover from that, and to do so required looking at incremental progress. But I think that the biggest area it shows up for me is getting in state. So I use the 1% rule as a mindset when I don't want to do something. When I don't want to go for the run, I don't want to go to the gym, I say, okay, I gotta get that 1%. I gotta just do the thing. I just gotta do the thing. And what it does is at times it lowers the bar and the expectation I would put on myself to be, let's say, a 10 out of 10, to be perfect, because I do set a high standard for myself. So when I lower the bar for a moment, it gives me the opportunity to raise it again. It gives me, as soon as I show up in the gym, I'm like, all right, I'm here. Let's put on some Metallica. Let's get going, all right? But I give myself that time. Like sometimes I'll even find myself driving to the gym, and I'll think for 10 minutes about all the things that I want to be motivated by. Like I will condition myself and get myself into a state of motivation in between the drive. And by the time I'm at the gym, I'm like, all right, it's time to go. But if I don't have the 1% rule, then I don't even get in the car.
Right.
Because I'm just like, oh my gosh, I don't want to do this right now.
Right.
The last thing I want to do is go to the gym. I'm tired, I'm feeling lethargic. The last thing I want to do is go for this run. So what I have to do is incrementally walk my way up that motivation ladder.
Just promising to get in there and do a couple exercises
Yeah.
and things like that.
Just, hey, go and ride the bike. And then as I start to get to the gym, as I'm driving, let's say it's taking me 7 minutes or 10 minutes, I start thinking about it. And I think about, hey, what kind of person do I want to be? Like, are you the person who is just gonna go through the motions today? Sometimes I have been that person, then that's okay. But it also gives me that bandwidth, that space, that physical space and time space to think and get myself on the right path. And so that's what it does, right? And some days it might be a walk, some days it might be a run, some days, hey, it might just be I just show up and don't do much, but at least I'm in the habit. It really depends on your own self-awareness and where you are today. But what's great is you do put yourself in the arena, and once you put yourself in the arena, you can push the effort. You can put yourself in a position to take charge. And so I think that this principle is really the foundation for progress. It is. It's just scientific. It's all based in psychology. Giving yourself small wins, chunking things down, looking at the process, not the end result. And if you follow this, not only will you make better progress, but I guarantee that you will have a better quality of life because of it.
Yes. Where, as we close, can you give yourself the opportunity to get 1% better in your health and fitness journey today? That's the question we'll leave you with. Answer it for yourself, apply it, and really just let it build. Allow yourself to go into 1%, trusting that it will build over time and you will push yourself as you get some momentum. So we hope that this is helpful. We hope that this has given you a little boost, a little inspiration, something to lean on today. Share this podcast or this video, depending on where you are, with somebody who you feel like needs a little bit more consistency, needs that momentum and to lower the bar. Give it to them and apply it yourself, and you'll be putting yourself in a position to conquer your day.
Cheers.